Are you planning to travel to Germany, Switzerland, and/or Austria? Want to learn a few phrases to navigate daily situations with ease? Then this video is for you. In today's lesson, I walk you through the most common and practical phrases that get you through everyday situations, like ordering food, buying tickets, or asking for directions with practical examples you can start using right away. So let's get started. And if you're new here, hallo und herzlich willkommen. I'm Salome, a native German teacher, polyglot, and founder of the German Fluency Academy. I help beginners specifically go from zero knowledge to confident and conversational in German, focusing on real-world, practical German that you can actually use in day-to-day life. So if that's your goal, the best way to get started is with my free beginner workshop. You'll find a link to register in the description box below. By the end of the workshop, you'll also find out more on how to join us inside the Academy. All right, let's dive into the travel phrases, and I've grouped them into 5 categories. We'll talk about important and common greetings, phrases for getting around, ordering in restaurants, cafes, and bakeries, shopping, and emergencies and help phrases. All right, let's dive in. Los geht's. Important and common greetings. Using the right greeting is the easiest way to start a conversation or even just interaction on the right note. Let's take a look at the most common ones and make sure to repeat after me. So saying these things out loud so you can actually get used to the pronunciation. Nummer 1. Hallo. Hallo. Very simple. It's just like the English hello, but without the h sound and with a h sound instead. Hallo. Guten Morgen. Guten Morgen. You'll notice here that the R in morgen is actually a silent R, so you don't really hear it at all. We pronounce morning in German as morgen. Morgen. Guten Morgen. Guten Tag. Guten Tag. Note that here the A in Tag is a long A sound, just like in the word father. So we don't pronounce this as or A, but as A, Tag. And also the G at the end is pronounced like a K. Guten Tag. Guten Tag. Next one for the evening. So after 5 p.m. you want to say Guten Abend. Guten Abend. Same here, we have a long stretched A sound in Abend, and the D at the end is actually pronounced like a T sound. Abend. Abend. Guten Abend. And a very casual farewell is Tschüss. Tschüss. The T-S-C-H combo here might look very tricky at first, but actually we have this sound in English as well. Like for example, the CH in cheese or the CH in chips. So it's the same sound here. It's a ch sound. And for this U sound with the 2 dots on top of them, you actually want to pronounce this as Ü. Ü. If you're struggling to produce this sound, start with an E first, E, and then form your lips to an U shape without moving the tongue around, because the tongue position in E and U are actually exactly the same. So the only thing left to do is shaping your lips to an U shape. So we go from E to U, EU, EU, EU. I highly recommend practicing this if you're struggling with the German umlauts. So a casual bye in German is pronounced as Tschüss. Tschüss. Next one, Auf Wiedersehen. Auf Wiedersehen. So the AU here is a so-called diphthong, which means that we have 2 vowels which melt into just one sound. It just becomes an ow, like ow in the word cow. Ow. And sehen here in Wiedersehen is stretched as a long sehen. Sehen. So we don't want to pronounce it as sehen, because I sometimes hear that as well. Actually, it's just a long E sound. Sehen. Sehen. Auf Wiedersehen. One more time. Auf Wiedersehen. Here is my tip for building confidence in your speaking skills right from the get-go. If you find the pronunciation part challenging, remember that you can always pause the video, rewind, and practice some more. And don't just listen to me, actively say it with me. So your mouth gets used to all of the movements that it needs to learn, because that's actually all language learning is. We're just adapting to new habits and movements for our mouth and tongue and throat and all of these things. And also you get used to hearing yourself in German as well. Next, we're going to take a look at some more phrases that will take you very, very far. Zum Beispiel, for example, bitte, bitte. This is pronounced with a short I sound and an sound at the end. Bitte, bitte. Next one, which is also very important, danke, danke. This has an A sound and an sound at the end. Danke, danke. Entschuldigung, Entschuldigung. I know this one looks very tricky at first, so if you have these very, very long words in German, break it down into its syllables and practice each syllable separately first before putting it back together. Let's break it down together. Entschuldigung. 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 Getting around. Now that you know how to greet people and be polite, let's move on to one of the most practical skills for travel, asking for directions. Whether you're trying to find the train station, the nearest restroom, or your hotel, these phrases will save you again and again. The first one is super short and easy. Repeat after me. Wo ist? Wo ist? Wo basically means where and ist means is, and then you simply add the place that you're looking for. Zum Beispiel, wo ist der Bahnhof? Wo ist der Bahnhof? The second phrase is useful when you want to know how to get somewhere. For that we say, wie komme ich zum or zur? Wie komme ich zum or zur? Zum Beispiel, wie komme ich zur U-Bahn? Wie komme ich zur U-Bahn? You might have noticed that we have zum and zur for to, and there are two different versions for that. That change basically depends on the gender of the noun. In German, nouns have three different genders. They can be masculine, feminine, and neuter. And based on that, we need to adjust the words that are in front of them. So here are a few more useful words that you can plug in, including the entire sentence, so you know when to use zum and when to use zur. Wie komme ich zum Bahnhof? Wie komme ich zum Flughafen? Wie komme ich zum Hotel? Understanding the response. Of course, asking is just one part. The challenge is often understanding the answer. You might not catch every single word, and that's completely normal. And I think it's super important to set realistic expectations. But if you know some keywords, you can still piece together the gist of what the response is about. So a few useful words you'll need in that situation are links, rechts, geradeaus, da vorne, bis zur Kreuzung, bis zur Ampel. So even if someone gives you a long response, as long as you pick out words like rechts, links, or geradeaus, you'll usually figure out where to go. If you're just starting to learn German, it can feel absolutely overwhelming when native speakers answer you. They speak fast and put words together very often and drop syllables here and there. And this is something I also cover in my free workshop for beginners, basically how to decode that fast spoken German. So if you're interested in learning more about that as well, I have that linked below for you. My biggest tip, however, at this stage is don't even try to understand understand every single word. That can actually slow you down because by the time you figured out one word, the person has already moved on with the conversation. So instead, focus on catching the keywords you do recognize and use the context of the situation to fill in the rest. We often underestimate how much we can understand from just body language, gestures, and the whole setting. Words are just one piece of the puzzle, so don't get too hung up on words that you don't understand. Try to catch these keywords and piece together the context from there. Restaurants and cafes. Food is one of the absolute highlights of traveling, and being able to order confidently makes the experience so much more fun. Luckily in German, you only need a handful of phrases to handle most situations in restaurants, cafes, and bakeries. So for ordering food and drinks, the magic phrase is Ich hätte gern. Ich hätte gern. It's a very polite and very common way to say I would like to have. Here are a few practical examples. Ich hätte gern einen Kaffee. Ich hätte gern ein Bier. Ich hätte gern eine Suppe. Notice how the little word at the beginning, einen, changes depending on the item. Again, that is because in German nouns have 3 different grammatical genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter, and depending on the gender of the noun, we need to adjust the article. So for Kaffee, which is a masculine noun, we say einen Kaffee. Bier is a neuter noun, so we say ein Bier. And Suppe is a feminine noun, so we say eine Suppe. Asking for the menu. Before you can order, you might want to see the menu, and the menu in German is die Speisekarte. Die Speisekarte. If you're in a cafe, you might also just hear Karte instead of Speisekarte. Both are fine. When you're ready to pay, you'll need the word die Rechnung. Die Rechnung bitte. And if you're not sure what to try, you can always ask for recommendations. In that case, you can say, was empfehlen Sie? Was empfehlen Sie? This is especially useful in local restaurants or when you want to try something traditional. And bonus tip, in many German-speaking countries, water in restaurants usually means Mineralwasser. Mineralwasser, which is sparkling water. So if you prefer still water, you want to ask for a stilles Wasser. Stilles Wasser. Shopping. Shopping is part of every trip, whether it's groceries, clothes, or souvenirs. So here are the most useful phrases to help you handle those situations with ease. Asking for the price. The number 1 phrase you'll need is Wie viel kostet das? How much does that cost? Say it with me. Wie viel kostet das? You can then point to an item while asking this question. This is super practical in markets or shops. Of course, in order to understand the response, you want to have your numbers down. I have a whole video on this that walks you through the numbers from 0 all the way to 1000, which I'll link below for you to check out next. Asking if something is available. To check if a shop has what you need, you use haben Sie. Haben Sie. For example, haben Sie Bier? Haben Sie Bier? Haben Sie Postkarten? Haben Sie Postkarten? Haben Sie diese Jacke in Größe M? Haben Sie diese Jacke in Größe M? And at the checkout, these phrases are very useful. Kann ich mit Karte bezahlen? Kann ich mit Karte bezahlen? Or if you just want to say that you want to pay with card, you simply say mit Karte bitte. Mit Karte bitte. Sometimes, however, the cashier might say nur bar. Nur bar. This is actually very common in Germany, so be prepared to have enough cash on you while traveling through the country. At the end, the cashier will always ask if you want or need a receipt. In German, we have multiple ways to say that, and all of them are equally common in daily interactions. So here are some words for receipt that you might hear. Der Beleg, der Kassenzettel, die Quittung, der Kassenbon, or simply just der Bon. If you don't need it, you can say den brauche ich nicht. Den brauche ich nicht. I would recommend keeping them though, because when you fly back to your home country, you can get the tax back at the airport. So just a little tip to keep in mind if you want to save some money. Emergencies and help. Hopefully you'll never need these phrases, but it's always better to be prepared. Even knowing just a few emergency expressions can make a huge difference if you need help quickly. For simply getting attention or asking for help, you can say Hilfe. Hilfe. This is the simplest way to call for help if you're in trouble or need urgent attention. If you got lost, you can say Ich habe mich verlaufen. Ich habe mich verlaufen. And if you want to specifically ask for help, you'll say Können Sie mir helfen? Können Sie mir helfen? And if you need medical help, these phrases are very important. Ich brauche einen Arzt. Ich brauche einen Arzt. Or rufen Sie bitte einen Krankenwagen. Rufen Sie bitte einen Krankenwagen. Ich brauche eine Apotheke. Ich brauche eine Apotheke. And here are a few more words that can be very helpful to recognize emergencies, or even if you need them yourself for emergencies. Die Polizei, die Feuerwehr, die Notaufnahme, der Unfall. So here you have it, some of the most practical and common phrases to make your next trip to Germany, Switzerland, or Austria easier and more enjoyable. And since you've stuck with me until this part of the video, here is a little bonus travel tip. If you're planning to travel around Germany, one of the easiest and most environmentally friendly ways to get around is by train. In that case, definitely check out the Deutschland ticket. With this ticket, you can use almost all public transport, buses, regional trains, and trams unlimited. The only exception is long-distance trains like the ICE, for which you'll need a separate ticket. At the time of this recording, the Deutschland ticket costs 58 euros per month. The price may go up in the future, it's currently under discussion, but if you plan on traveling a lot within Germany, it's definitely worth considering. And I'm curious to know, where are you going to visit? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be back next week with another lesson for you guys, as usual on Tuesday, 3 p.m. Germany time. Das ist alles für heute. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss!